Pokemon. For the past 20 years, it's been fascinating both kids and adults who have spent hours and hours trying to catch them all. In North America, the series started in 1998 on the original Game Boy with Pokemon Red and Blue. And since then, a subset of gamers have been obsessed with trying to beat that game as fast as humanly possible. Hundreds have tried, but only a few have risen to the top as the fastest people to ever speedrun Pokemon. Let's see how we got there. This is the world record progression of Pokemon Red and Blue. The true origin of Pokemon Red and Blue speedruns can be traced back to the mid-2000s. There's a guy named Jacob McMillan who seemed to have full control of any percent glitchless runs of the game back in 2008. He did a run in 2 hours and 39 minutes, before eventually lowering it to 2.5 hours flat. However, we're not going to be looking deeply at these runs today, since they weren't nearly as optimized as the run I'm about to show you. Let's move a few years later. This particular run of Pokemon Glitchless was done by a fairly well-known runner. His name is Worcester, and on November 14th, 2011, he completed the first really optimized speedrun of Pokemon Blue, 1 hour and 58 minutes. Let's see how he did it. So, Worcester had the choice of picking from Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle as his starter Pokemon. He ended up going with Squirtle. He's the only water type of the three, and the first of the 8 gym leaders that Worcester would encounter, Brock, was rock type. Since water type Pokemon are super effective against rock type, this meant he could easily breeze through the start of the game to level Squirtle up for later. Worcester's general strategy throughout this run was to just make it through the game while doing the minimum that was required. Rather than waste time trying to capture other Pokemon and trying to level them up to use their moves, for the most part he simply rode Squirtle throughout the entire game, going to each of the 8 gyms and fighting the Elite Four. In addition, he played on Pokemon Blue instead of Pokemon Red, because Pokemon Blue gives you a higher chance of getting Sandshrew after Mount Moon. Sandshrew has the ability Cut, which lets you cut down a tree blocking the way to Surge's gym, allowing you to continue progressing through the game. Worcester was also careful to name all Pokemon, players, and rivals just one character. This way, whenever their name scrolled on screen, it would take less time to type it out. While this may not seem like much of a time save, it adds up over the course of a run. And finally, he was also looking for the diversification values, or DVs, assigned to Squirtle. You see, once the game begins, it randomly assigns values to 4 statistics for your starter Pokemon: attack, defense, speed, and special, on a scale from 0 to 15. Ideally, you would want these values to be as close to 15 as possible, as the higher the value is, the higher the possible value you can reach for that stat. If Worcester got bad DVs, he would just reset the game and try again for better ones. It was worth restarting a run right away than attempting to play it out with bad stats. All of this careful planning awarded Worcester a time far ahead of any other Pokemon Red and Blue speedrunner. McMillan's run looked so much slower in comparison, and it was clear to everyone that Worcester was the dominant Pokemon Blue speedrunner. And as it usually goes with speedrunners, the dominant runner tends to hold on to their record for a very long time. Like I mentioned before, Worcester got his 158, which was the time that the game gave you at the end after completing the game, in November 2011. Well, all of 2012 came and went, and neither he nor anybody else could beat it. But by early 2013, Worcester was back to doing attempts again, this time on his Twitch page, twitch.tv/Worcester, so that people could watch him do his attempts live. And he had a new trick up his sleeve: Red Bar. See, whenever your health gets low during a battle, under about 20%, your Pokemon's health bar turns red and the game plays this constant beeping noise throughout the battle. It was basically the game's way of grabbing your attention and saying, you better be careful, you don't have much health left and you can die easily. It turns out this beeping noise has a convenient side effect for speedrunners. There's normally long sound effects and animations that play whenever you gain moves or level up. The red bar beeping noise overlaps these sound effects and makes them not play, speeding every fight up. So ideally, Worcester would get Squirtle down to low health, at that health for as long as he could do, and get as many benefits as possible from Red Bar. The problem was, he was often one attack away from dying when under the effects of Red Bar, so there was no real consistent way to set it up repeatedly throughout the run. And ultimately, he was hardly able to use Red Bar at all in this run, only in a couple of places. But partially thanks to a really strong early game, it was still enough to push down the record one more minute, to 1 hour and 57 seconds. This time streamed live for the world to see. By the way, the splits you see on the side were for real time, to give everyone watching an idea if he was on a good or a bad pace. The time that runners were actually paying attention to in the end was the in-game time at the end of the game.
157. Did you get it? Congratulations, man.
And I got shirts on my money.
Good.
So by this point, Worcester had had the record for close to a year and a half, without anybody being able to challenge him. His method of taking Squirtle and running with him just wasn't working for anybody else. Well, if people couldn't outplay him just yet, maybe somebody could out-strategize him. This is extra tricky.
Ah, 2-0. Damn it.
Extra Tricky decided to start with Squirtle, just like Worcester, because he could quickly get through the first gym with him. However, instead of ignoring all other Pokemon, he captured one,